Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody tuning in from around the globe, the crypto Twitter sphere, and from outside of that as well. Welcome to a new show that we're going to be doing. We've tentatively named it Decrypted because nothing we're saying is going to be ran through any type of encryption, no scripts, no PR on the back end telling us we're not allowed to say something. You're going to be getting fully unfiltered conversation from two of the greatest minds in Web3 and crypto, and my 1 cent, we'll call it. We are so excited to be bringing you guys this new show. We're going to be focusing on crypto, AI, technology, everything that is happening around the world. And we're just going to be giving you our unfiltered opinions, our thoughts. What does it mean for you as a viewer, as a crypto enthusiast, as a blockchain enthusiast, and have some fun. Right? Because in the end, that's all that matters. Let's just have some fucking fun. So let's kick it off. With me today, obviously, my two favorite people. Don't tell my wife. We have Mr. Stan O'Halloran and okay, unfiltered, unscripted. There we go. Stan O'Halloran. Let's do it live. Do it live. With Mr. Jack O'Halloran and Stan Gladko. Jack, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Hey, I'm pumped. I just want to say, I'll give you like my quick intro on why we're doing this. Like, Stan and I have been working in crypto for a long time. We've been working in tech for a long time. We've been full-time since 2017 working in blockchain crypto space. So we know the inside pretty well. We also see what's happening on the outside. We have some unique perspectives. And the other thing is the last two times we've done these live streams, we've had over 400,000 views each time. Okay. And so a lot of people are interested. So we decided, hey, let's go talk about topics. Let's also talk about FAIR and scale and project updates. But, people want to hear about what's happening in the market. And, none of this, by the way, is investment advice ever. These are our own opinions. But, hey, I think we need more, people kind of stepping up and talking about hot topics that actually know what's happening. I hear people all the time on podcasts and I'm like, this person has no clue what the hell they're talking about. Why are people listening to them? So, I think Stan and I are a pretty good combo of our unique set of skills to give some perspectives that we hope are entertaining, maybe educational, but if nothing else, at least, we're going to have a good time.
And I also think, Stan, before I send it over to you, the good thing as well is, for a fact, we're not being paid to say anything.
Yeah.
Which is, you're getting true, authentic ideas and thoughts coming from us because, hey, the only people that are paying me are the two down there. So, anything we say,
no one's pumping our influencer budget here for us to talk about anything. So we can say whatever we want.
Although it could be interesting. Start shilling Monad or something randomly. Stan, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I think, the show, just to pretty much repeat what Jack said, I think the name Decrypted, definitely the name is related to FAIR, because FAIR is encrypted. So we just need to do something different, right? So we're doing this encrypted blockchain. And this show, at least for me, I think it's also fun because frankly, I just sit pretty much all the time and program or review what other people are programming. Now here I can stand and just chat. And actually, it's really, I consider for myself, it's fun. And we'll try to make it as unscripted as possible. I think with what we noticed, I mean, the key to being viral is actually being unscripted. If you open Twitter and you watch the things on Twitter, all of them are just the same kind of tone. People like, overly energetic, too fast, overly happy, and it's kind of hits the spam filter. That's why I think many of videos on Twitter don't get watched. And also I think, one of the reasons to do a live show is that definitely crypto community, we understand, and I understand, they want to know us better, right? They want to understand who we are, frankly. And that's why I think when they see something live, then they get interested, because then they can see us the way we are, with all our big things, small things, like good things, bad things, whatever. So it's not only a live show, but it's totally unscripted. We don't have any scripts. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. The way it's going to go, we don't really know. So, but I really hope that we're going to have lots of fun.
That is the main aim, right? Is, for us to
and
hang out.
Your thoughts. We're going to hopefully, you're going to leave thinking about things different ways. So
definitely. And, we want to have fun with you guys, the viewers, the community. So if there are things that you want us to change or talk about, let us know. We've already got quite a few people in the comments. Micah, Ralph, Didoy, Unmotivated, Yumi, what's going on? Diane, we got some cool stuff to talk about today, and it's gonna be a grand old time. But today is a special day. Well, I don't know if special is the right word. It's both scary and special day, because hey, it's Fed rate cuts day, potentially. So this is something that affects like everybody within crypto, whether you're a builder, whether you're a meme coin trader, whether you're just a person that doing play to earn, P2E, anything, right? This unfortunately, one man affects your couple of months. So you know what? I'm gonna throw this over to you, Jack.
Yeah, well, let's look at the data first, okay? And actually, before we look at the data, I think we should just try to educate people who, some people don't know, like, why does this matter? Okay, well, what happens is the Fed is in charge in the United States of determining what this a rate is that then impacts the rate of mortgages effectively. So if you want to buy a home and the Fed raises rates, well, guess what? Your mortgage is going to be, some, percentage higher based off of the decisions they make. And why that matters is that it completely impacts the global economy. It's like they found this one lever to pull that just makes things go this way or that way. And, and so what happens is if the rates drop on the negative side, that could potentially increase inflation, because guess what? Equity markets start booming. People start buying stuff. People raise prices because there's more money out there. And when inflation goes up, core value and all of these things, it's really bad for an economy and their core currency. And for, all of a sudden you're, working your ass off all day and you want to go buy a sandwich. It's not $17, it's $21 for the same sandwich. Like, that's why we need to stop inflation. On the other side, if the rates never go down, guess what? The economy stops and we lose jobs. So when the rates drop, well, guess what? Yeah, more money floods in, people get more risk on, more homes are bought, more buildings happens, more building happens, more construction, more jobs are created, and it stimulates the economy. So it's this really delicate balance. Now, I think Polymarket's the most accurate place you can get information on this. On Polymarket, looking here at the rate, let's see. So we are now at 91% odds in Polymarket of a 25 basis point decrease, which is pretty good. The other 7% of that is a 50% decrease, which would be huge. I think if that happened, crazy things are going to happen with the market. Now, what's interesting, back in, I'm looking here, the betting back in the spring, no change was predicted, 70% chance of winning. And then in August, there was a huge flip. It went from 38% to 72% for 25 basis point decrease. Now, anyways, this is why this matters to you, to your crypto bags. When rates drop, risk on markets do better. Especially you look at the alt market, like you look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're a different class now. They're trading differently than this entire, group of alt tokens. And the same thing's true with traditional equities. Like Tesla's booming, but your mid cap and small cap stocks are still not booming. Well, that part of the market has been kind of depressed, and frankly, I think people are really excited about what's going to happen when but fingers still crossed. Stan, what do you think?
Yeah, I also want to add, actually, I tweeted about this a couple of months ago, is that pretty much like every government wants to print money, because if you can print money, then you can give this money to someone. The only thing which usually prevents governments from printing more money is inflation. Unfortunately, if you print too much money, you actually start having inflation. I can give you guys a secret. I was born in a country with zero inflation. So when I was like a child, I would go to a store and there would be like a bread, and it would be 20 kopeykas, and the subway was 5 kopeykas, and like mineral water was 1 kopeyka. Actually, it was very useful because everyone knew the prices. The problem was that, at some point you would go to a store, there would be nothing because they couldn't increase the prices, but people would just buy more stuff. Mm-hmm. But in like free economy, actually you can change prices. But usually, when you print too much money, then people go and start buying things and price go up. But with AI, what happens is that productivity grows. So, there's pretty much any product, and like Netflix, you go like watch Netflix, and then you watch more of it, the price doesn't change. And then you could be a physical product, but because of AI, like a car, the car design is becoming cheaper because AI is used to design better cars without people. So normally without AI companies, when there's lots of demand, they hire people and have to pay them. And this salary actually causes inflation. Now with AI, if you have more demand, you break this Adam Smith thing that you have more demand, but you don't have to hire more people because AI can increase productivity. So we have this kind of next 20 years for sure. We have this really interesting new economy where you can produce more things without actually hiring more people or inflation. And we got at this, I think, to this point. And so we're getting into this deflationary cycle which is actually going to be really good because governments will be able to print more money, but it probably will not cause so much inflation. And I think we actually have seen something like that. Like there are some studies showing that, that companies don't hire so much anymore, especially like marketing people or software engineers, like people like Falcor or people like me. Actually, in fact, I think like in marketing, for instance, if you are creative and you're doing a video show, right, like you won't be replaced by AI. But if you're like sort of like backstage marketing where you're producing documents or doing things that are not so creative, some of these jobs are going to be replaced by AI, or a single marketing person will be able to create more. Very much like this in software engineering. If you're doing some really creative stuff, AI actually won't be able to replace you. But if you're just like fixing some small bugs or like writing tests, some of these mundane tasks are going to be replaced by AI. And it's not will be replaced, it is being replaced. So we are already in a situation where AI is actually affecting economy, I think, especially the US economy. So we're seeing this cases where, they can actually decrease the rates, print more money, but there will be no inflation. And it is actually really interesting how it's going to play for the next, 5 or 10 years. For crypto, definitely in the past, less of interest rates, more money. Some of this money is going to go into crypto. Last thing I want to say about inflation, because it's also very important about scale. is that scale also has inflation, and not everyone knows how our inflation works. People ask me on Twitter. So basically, we are very much like Bitcoin with scale. We started with some inflation, and our inflation is decreasing. So important facts are that this October, sometime this October, our inflation is going to decrease. I think about like 15 or 17%. So we're going to start printing less money, which is probably going to be good for our ecosystem, especially that because many of the scale chains now are profitable. People paying us for the chains. We don't really need to support our chains anymore by printing money. And then a year from now, we are going to have this huge kind of thing, which is called dehalvening. Basically, our inflation is going to go again, 1/2, 50% less. And this is a sign of our network maturing, people paying us for chains. We don't actually have to print more money. But the algorithm has been there for a long time. It's just the algorithm is now working.
Yeah. Hey, let me give you some hard numbers on that inflation rate for scale. Mm-hmm. Year one, scale is inflating 32.08 million tokens per month. Okay. Then it went down to 28.8 million per month. This year two. Year three, 25.6. Year three, 22.4. Next year, 19.25. Next year, down to 16. And so we are crossing from 19.25 million tokens per month being inflated down to 16 million tokens per month being inflated on October 1st. Okay. We're going to lose 3 million per month being inflated. And that's what goes to rewards to stakers, to validators. Now, the other thing is, it's not that the total amount stationary. So our inflation percentage, even though it drops 3 million, it's dropping, our cumulative number keeps growing. So anyways, this is big. We're going to go from 16 million to 8 when the halvening starts. And then it stays on 8 and it halves every, I think it's every 3 years it halves. So we came up with this, by the way, in 2018, and anybody could make a proposal to change this at any time, but no one has yet because it's just kind of working. And it wasn't just Stan and I. We had a lot of smart people around the table, a lot of people, a lot of validators, a lot of developers, a lot of people weighing in on this. And I think this group did a really good job. Like, we haven't had to change it yet. That's meaningful. But inflation, hey, if we boosted it, it would create more jobs. All of a sudden, we'd have more people running nodes. But then the core value of the currency might drop, right? So the U.S. government's dealing with a similar thing, which is kind of interesting. That's a good point, Stan.
Yeah, it is very interesting because, for example, my dad works in manufacturing and testing, and he was like, "Oh, I need to hire a CAD designer to come and do CAD," and I said to him, I said, "Dude, I can give you something that'll do CAD in 20 seconds," and obviously you got to feel a little bit bad for the guy and the potential job that's lost, but my dad now can just load up this little program that I gave him and just does CAD designs to like nanometer accuracy, and they can be more productive, right? Because more people doesn't necessarily mean more productivity, right?
Yeah. So hey, I got a question for Stan on this. Stan, I don't know if you and I have talked about this. So this is, to me, is like one of the most thought-provoking predictions I've heard. So Elon Musk said that he thinks that GDP is going to raise, I think it was like 1,000% or something in like the next couple years, or 10,000% because of AI. So let's unpack that. So all of a sudden, what if we just had right now what if we had 20 billion new workers on this planet that didn't have to get paid? They got paid because some business was employing them, but they individually didn't have to get paid. All that money went back to people that work at businesses. Well, that's the reality of AI. We all of a sudden, our workforce could double, triple, quadruple, quintuple. Okay. And so what does that mean then to the average person? Are we all out of a job? Well, but if GDP grows X bazillion percent, and then you have all these people, then it's going to crash because there's going to be a revolt. They're not going to have money to buy anything if these people don't have jobs. So I think that like there has to be money that flows down to everyone's going to have more money. Even if you don't have a job, you're going to have a lot more money. If you have a job, you might just be babysitting an AI, but you know, some way money will flow down because it has to, because we need people to spend. But it's interesting that like this CAD designer might be out of a job, but it might be better off for him because, you know, the country of England might be making, you know, 20 times the amount of money in, you know, product in the next couple of years. And that money somehow is going to flow back to all the people. But Stan, what do you think? Because it's like a super heavy topic, and it's like almost makes my brain blow up thinking about it.
The only thing which is totally sure, no one will ever replace the CEO and the CTO. So
give me 2 hours. I can create an AI agent in 2 hours to replace both of you.
Yeah. But, so Falcor, you're definitely safe too. But I mean, I think like if we just take a very like abstract point of view, when people used to like, there were so many people like doing like shoes, right? Shoemakers. And then at some point factories started producing shoes. So basically you would either get out of, you wouldn't have any job, or you would go work for the factory that produced shoes. And so you would have to go to the city. It was pretty huge thing at the time because people had to go from villages, you know, go to the city and then start working for the shoe factory. And for many of them, it was pretty shocking personal experience. But unfortunately, I mean, or fortunately, there was a progress, right? And now I think what we clearly see from this AI thing is that creativity, we clearly see you can try ChatGPT, you can try like, you know, all of the image generation stuff like video, and you see that these things are able, once you have an idea, a creative idea, they are able to actually implement this idea for you, but they are not creative. Yeah, you can actually generate music like Lana Del Rey, but it's not going to be Lana Del Rey. It's just going to produce something very similar that Lana Del Rey wrote before, or Beatles, or whatever. So it's totally clear that this entire transition pushes people to be more creative or lose their jobs, right? And so the question is, can pretty much every person in the world become creative or more creative? Because people that will be able to become creative, then they will actually have lots of money, because there will be many more creative jobs. So, you know, if you are working at a restaurant, you know, you can create creatively. If you're working like a waiter, like a waiter at a restaurant, you can be creative at your job. You know, you can treat your customers. If you pretty much, I think any person can become more creative in their job. And so the optimistic point of view is just will push the humanity to become more creative. And some things which are kind of silly, if you look at meme coins, for instance, right? You can say they're gambling, they're silly things, you know, there's nothing behind them, but they are creative, right? You know, people have fun. So from this perspective, you know, things that we see in crypto, we look at meme coins and say, you know, like previous generation, like my grandma would like look at meme coins and say, what the hell are these guys doing? What is this meme coin? But it makes fun for people. People create communities. And
it's like a sport. These people are analyzing these things. They're trying to be the best at it. And I think it's training this next generation of traders how to trade and how to look at markets and how to think about being creative, to package ideas. It's like a battleground for the next like, you know, like what a great way to learn, right? We didn't have that when we were that age.
Yeah, and crypto is like, then it's just a platform to be creative. So like, we have all of these games on scale, right? And I think games didn't do the hockey stick yet, but they will at some point, because, you know, definitely games are creative things. And so the games are going to come at some point. And crypto in general, to a certain degree, is going to, I think, merge with like entertainment industry because it's fun. And so
It's like payments. How are you going to get paid? Microtransactions. Guess who's going to be making content? People like us in their home, and they're going to be creating like badass TV shows and movies. And you know, I wrote about this on Twitter a while ago, and this guy's like, "What does this have to do with scale? Only tweet about scale." And it's like, dude, this has to do with scale. Guess what? Microtransactions, payments. When we live in a world where you're gonna, you know, I'm going to load up X amount of USDC or have some sort of crypto credit happening. And I'm going to be able to watch things and pay, you know, that's how these creators are going to get paid. Okay. Absolutely. It's not just going to be unified advertising from some network. It's all about decentralization, distribution of product creation and consumption, removing intermediaries. You can't do that without crypto.
It's interesting because that's actually like our third topic. We were going to go and talk about crypto and pump.
You know, Stan and I, we're just gonna go like
you guys are gonna go like this. So yeah, let's start talking about that, because like one of the things when streaming first started, like back in 2011, 2012.
Hey, Falker, before we shift to, I think we're gonna talk about the streaming thing. Before we do, I have one more question to Stan on this AI thing, because before we leave it.
Yeah, go.
So Stan, here, I think if I hear what you're saying, so like, here's the premise for everybody, right? Like, there's a gazillion robots. They're all doing all this work for everybody. Either we're all out of a job, and then we're getting like 80% of the people are just getting like, you know, welfare checks that are, you know, you're making 300 grand a year because of all the money the robots make. It's not bad, right? Maybe making 3 times as much as you made before, and you don't have to work. Or more jobs are created. And I think what you're getting at, Stan, is there's going to be new jobs. And if you read Super Intelligence, the book, it goes into all of this. Like, you know, they talk about when horses, all of a sudden the automobile was created. There were 27 million horses in the US, and, you know, millions and millions of jobs to manage these horses. Think about all the people that had to put shoes on them, and veterinarians, and all the things, cleaning, horse cleaning. It's like a car wash, you know, a horse wash. You know, you had like all these services, and the people that made the food for the horses and cleaned up the manure. Guess what? The amount of horses in 1 year went from 27 million to 3 million. And all these people were up in arms. We're out of jobs. Guess what? More jobs were created around like auto manufacturing than it just dwarfed the amount of jobs that existed in the horse industry. So I guess, Stan, it's what you're saying. And can you like extrapolate a little further? The new jobs are going to be about creativity and working with AI. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think like I'm just thinking, Jack, about you. Everyone knows you have so many children. You know, I think like parenting is one like actually example of creativity that like parenting and teaching. That actually it's the job which is is totally short supply, right? Children don't actually get enough of their parents. So when you're a parent, definitely you're creative. So maybe the society finds some. It's probably going to be really simple, like some tax advantage, just literally paying parents. Because it's a job, right? You are working when you're a parent. So why can't parents be paid in a world of total abundance when there's no like reason to not have money? So you're creative as a parent. You know, definitely another thing which is missing is that, you know, teaching, you know, there's not enough teachers. They're underpaid. It's also creative. You can be a creative teacher. Also, everything human and emotional is pretty much replaceable by robots, I think, which is also creative. I think it's kind of a mix. So I actually say like, and you don't have to have a college degree to be creative, right? Pretty much any job. Also, you should think about things like, you know, for instance, clothes, right? People all of us get the same T-shirts or shirts. If the society becomes richer, then people can create. There will be more people doing things like clothing or shoes, right? But different type. You will have much more choice as a consumer, because you have like websites like Etsy, where you can buy things not mass produced by people are doing them. That's also creativity. Actually, so like I mean, can give you an example. My cousin, and she has like 2 daughters. And they're all creative. Like my cousin is doing some kind of like healing / you know, meditation, teaching and stuff. And her daughters, one of them are doing this really creative cakes. She does like flowers out of like sweets. all kinds of things that they sell them on Instagram. For them, Instagram is kind of a way to selling things. So I mean, like the way I think, like the positive view is just everyone becomes more creative. As consumers, will have lots of choice. Parents will have time to care about their kids. If you go to school, you'll have lots of teachers. So that's maybe like less.
It's almost like the jobs are going to go from like, being on the factory floor making this stuff to being like, it's the Maslow hierarchy, right? Like we need like food and shelter, then we need like, some like base level, like, work and feeling of, of value. Then we need like love and emotional support. Then we need fun and creativity, right? And I think the jobs are going to be pushing up to that. All of a sudden we have more free time and more disposable income. So, the amount of streamers out there, right? The amount of people that are, doing fashion, doing, food, doing entertainment, like that, it just totally makes sense that that's where the jobs are going to go. And that's where, frankly, where creativity matters more, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting as well, because Stan, I actually hadn't thought about this previously, where like, some jobs will disappear, but there are so many gaps in society where we need more people in those roles: doctors, nurses, teachers, carers, people caring for the elderly, police. Like there are so many understaffed industries where now there is this potential of an abundance. And I also think, going on from what Stan said about creativity, in the end, AI, for right now at least, is taught by us as humans, right? Like AI currently doesn't have its own individual thought. It learns from us. It's still going to need to learn. You're still going to need creative people, either to make new things, come up with new ideas, to prompt it. Sawyer can attest. I go to him and I say, "Hey, Sawyer, I just thought about this." And he goes, "Oh, awesome. Never thought of that. Let's get AI to do it." And, but AI itself can't do that. So innovation is still going to come from.
Yeah, you need somebody saying, "Hey, let's make these ideas. Let's put an AI on this."
Yeah.
And it's just different. You're going to be able to do more with less. We're all going to be able to do more. Hey, one thing just to tie this back. Why are we talking about AI so much? Well, one, Stan and I worked in AI for, separately at different jobs, like for a really long time. Like, I started an AI company in 2008 and did it for 9 years. And Stan started, a big data AI company prior to this. And so we know the space pretty well. But you look at the merger of AI and crypto, there's no way these things don't completely intertwine. Programmable money and programmable intelligence, okay? And so what FAIR is doing, we're creating like the world's best place for AI to interact and trade. And it doesn't mean, hey, AI, take all my money and manage my entire portfolio. No, I might be like, hey, protect this, be really safe with this budget. Like, let me give you 20% of my portfolio and be super safe. Hey, here's 10%, just degen. See if you can 20x this thing. Go nuts. And the other piece, I'll manage these things on my own. But AI is going to do like certain components of your trading for you, this agentic trading. And guess what? It will just get completely hosed by MEV. It just can't function when you have MEV. Like it just doesn't, it will just be dilapidated. It will erode. It cannot be like nearly reach its potential. And that's why proof of encryption is so important. So AI is coming, crypto's going to play a huge role, and we need proof of encryption in order for that world to be a reality.
And by the way, in the FAIR white paper, I think we covered this. And you guys, if you're interested to learn a little more about how FAIR relates to AI, go to Scale Forum. We have lots of discussions about AI on Scale Forum. You go to my tweets, go to Sawyer's tweets. Many of them Sawyer. Also read the white paper. But for you, just TLDR. There are many ways in which AI used to be crowdsourced. So when you say crypto and AI, in many cases, it's like crowdsourcing AI by using many agents. And not having any centralized party like OpenAI, but crowdsourcing. When you crowdsourced, basically every party in the crowdsourced system needs to get paid. Like Uber is crowdsourced taxis, right? So every Uber driver gets paid, or Airbnb is crowdsourced hotels, right? Every room needs to be paid. But for crowdsourcing AI, when you do something, like let's say you're doing a particular work for this AI thing, you're submitting your work, and then you are paid by the smart contract. It's incredibly important for you to submit your work encrypted, because if you submit your work unencrypted, someone can front run you. And essentially, this person wouldn't do any work. They would just copy your work. So for crowdsourced AI, for crypto AI, not front running actually becomes a central problem, because if I'm doing something, I'm submitting into the smart contract, the smart contract is paying me pretty much for anything, right? As a person can just copy my results and get paid, and then I'm not going to get paid because of front running. So it's the key, and that's why FAIR actually is going to be key for AI, because encryption actually totally solves the problem of front running, solves the problem of I'm only going to reveal my information if I am going to get paid. So pretty much anything where I have some valuable information or results which I'm selling, or art, but I want to get paid before revealing it, means encryption. So that's why we think that FAIR is going to unleash all kinds of absolutely different applications on blockchain, by people doing some things, doing some art, doing some work, doing some AI, submitting these things to blockchain encrypted, and then revealing them, decrypting them only. Smart contracts actually will decrypt them only when the other party pays to the person. So it's totally important to have encryption for crypto AI.
Yeah, and decentralization is so. When can I get a decentralized storage network, right? Where let's say like for example, I have 1 terabyte worth of storage on my PC right now. When can I download a little node that's going to allow me to store someone's data that then they can recall, and then I can get a little bit of token every time, for like storing their data for them? I want that. Someone build that, please.
So I completely sidelined your next topic. So Valkor, I feel like you can get us back on track now.
Yeah, we'll get back. To be
go there, and by the way, I like asking Stan these things, because Stan's got he sees the technology in ways we don't, but he has these other just unique perspectives, and he's always got something really. I'm like, okay, wow, so I love asking him these questions. Usually we do this, drinking beer together after a long day of work.
And that's because I'm not actually, people don't know, I'm not actually a computer scientist or programmer. I'm a physicist. And I think the difference is that computer scientists always know the answer, but in physics, we know that we don't know most of the things we don't have a clue about. So a physicist, I think I'm more fun to drink beer with than
you're always trying to figure something out, right? You're trying to build a hypothesis to figure out how things work, right? And find the next magic, right? Unlock the next key, which is, as opposed to let me learn the math, let me learn the computer science, let's make 1 + 1 = 2. You're trying to, that makes a lot of sense.
Also, accepting some bad things. What I've noticed about programmers after becoming a programmer is that programmers have problems accepting their failure, or ZK guys. Now they roll up guys. Actually, physicists don't have this problem, because you're a physicist. There's experiment. I mean, in physics, there's an experiment, and ultimately someone does an experiment, and your theory is wrong. And what can you do? You need to accept it, and so it's usually not a problem for physicists.
Yeah, a wrong theory is still, you can still take away the results from an incorrect hypothesis, right? It's still, even if it is incorrect, you can still take learnings from that, either do experiments to try and prove this hypothesis, or it can even help you prove other hypotheses.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Stan, one interesting thing, I don't think I had a chance to tell you this. So when Dan Bonnet was speaking at the crypto event I went to, cryptography event, it was myself and Sawyer were the only two people there who weren't cryptographers. We were like, there were a bunch of other there were like a bunch of BD people there trying to sell to everybody who was there, but we were the people that were, we needed you there. You would have been around your peers, and the audience questions were amazing because they had all these, geniuses in the audience. And so when Dan was talking, somebody asked him a question, and they're like, hey, well, it was the moderator who was doing the fireside chat with him said, hey, I'm noticing that you've made a radical shift from like things have to be the most secure ever, unhackable, to taking more of a like pragmatic approach. Like, yeah, this is actually really secure. It's not it's not as secure as the other thing, but it's going to be way easier to use, way less expensive, way faster, way more practical. And he's like, basically was like, yeah, that's basically where I've come to. And what I realized was our approach at scale was the pragmatic approach. And other people, like on all these ZK techniques, these other techniques you talked about that kind of like failed to ever capture any users or utilization, they were just so dead set on this pedantic level of cryptography, security, that they didn't even think about user experience. So it was interesting to see Dan kind of and Dan's, Dan got Stan into crypto. Dan's one of the most famous cryptographers in the world, famous professors in the world. And, but Stan, that was like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, I took like a course from them many, many years ago. I won't tell when, but I took a course from him and I got A+ in this course. And I joined a startup that he founded. It was Encrypted database startup. The name was, then came up with this interesting name, Ingrian Network. Why Ingrian? It turns out that there's this tribe somewhere in Finland, I think, that no one knows the language. Like literally, the language is weird and no one can translate it. So it was a good analogy at that time for encrypted database. But then it actually, I think he's coming from the tradition of Israeli crypto science. I think some of you guys know that he's from Israel. And in Israeli, I used to work with lots of people from Israeli crypto community, which intersects a lot with Israeli like military community, right? And I think that one of the reasons why Israeli crypto and security startups actually ended up being so good, and so successful is that, you can't really be pedantic when you have to like basically fight for your like life. So pretty much you have to be very practical. And I think because if it's like you have to come up with solutions which are good enough and also fast enough. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also true for software and for startups, because you need to survive. You're also in this kind of a bit of a like army/war mode where you have limited amount of time, and something doesn't work, you need to be able to accept and change it.
But it seems like he's now there, but there was this period where him and all his like disciples of cryptography who are starting all these companies and mm-hmm. Starting all these ZK projects and talking about Ethereum security, where they forgot that. They just were like, this must be the most secure, and they forgot about all these other things. And it seems like now the thing has like sped forward and they're like, whoa, we have to be practical. And he kind of maybe got back to his roots.
Yeah, and many things about ZK which are practical. I think pretty much, when any technology starts, people say it's gonna like change the world, and it will. But for any technology, some applications work, some don't. And I think for ZK, absolutely, the privacy part, for instance, in Monero, right? That's an example of huge application of ZK. Very simple thing. You send someone a transaction is private. That worked very well. Monero is by far the best application of ZK. I think what Polygon guys are doing with Uglier makes also total sense. Just doing a bridge using ZK, I think also makes total sense. But just doing ZK on EVM, I think didn't really work. And I was the first one, I think, for many years. I said it was not really practical because it's like million times slower than EVM without ZK. And EVM is already secure because you have like thousands of nodes repeating the same computation. So the verification of computation just comes from people repeating the same stuff all over again. So that's where I think ZK turned out not to be so well. So now I think now actually at the moment it's actually interesting how fast people forget. So now there's actually not even so much a point to talk about ZK because for the most part everyone agrees it's not so hot. But some things like uglier, for instance, I think totally makes sense. And so for FAIR, we're totally taking a different approach. We're not coming from technology. We're just trying to see how things work, how people use them. And we're coming from practical things. So that's why we have actually phases in FAIR. We want to do it iteratively, step by step. And then if something doesn't work, we'll accept it and kill it and do something else. We have absolutely no problem accepting our failures, or if a new technology comes, whatever. So our goal with FAIR is to create encrypted blockchain, and we're going to do it. Technologies that we use, we'll see how the world evolves, how the science evolves. But what we totally understand is possible to do it reasonably well. You have good level of encryption. And also, it doesn't have to be perfect encryption because most people actually accept like commercial grade security. Your bank also probably doesn't have perfect security, but it's good enough for most people. So with FAIR, what we want to do is just basically create a good enough thing, fast enough, like inexpensive enough, and let it play with people. Not play with people, but people play with it. We'll see how it goes. But I think we have lots of interest, and there are things like last couple of days we had a really interesting conversation about some interesting lots of, I would say, like with FAIR, what we're seeing is that big players are coming to us because people like saying, oh, you can encrypt on blockchain. I think no one else can do it. So that's big.
Hey Stan, can you remind everybody what the three phases are? Just because I think there's a lot of people that maybe read the white paper, maybe they didn't. What are the three phases, and kind of extrapolate on those? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah, so basically we want to release fast. We don't want to sit even for a year. I mean, we want to program everything in a year, frankly, but we don't want to wait for a year, right? So the first thing useful we can do, we can really want to release the network. And so the first phase is MEV resistance. We are going to have a blockchain which is going to be totally MEV resistant, and also solving the privacy trilemma. Actually, like a couple of days ago, I tweeted this last show we discussed this privacy trilemma, and I actually used AI to draw really nice triangle. So guys, go to my Twitter and see this triangle, really nice privacy trilemma. Essentially, there are three things important in privacy. The first thing is ease of use. So if you have encryption or privacy on blockchain, but it's unusable, there's no point having it. So it has to be ease of use. The second thing is privacy itself. Blockchains need to have privacy and encryption because otherwise you're not able to move banks to blockchain or move financial institutions to blockchain. Because if it's not encrypted, banks encrypt stuff, right? So, but the third thing is something which is called classic consensus. And that's kind of the way I call Ethereum, because pretty much on a fundamental level, everyone copied Ethereum. Yes, I mean, there are some blockchains where they work faster, run faster. Some of them are more centralized. But on a feature base, everyone is actually doing a copy of Ethereum. It's all public. The features are the same. It's like EVM, SVM, but it's not so much of a difference. So I call this like classic consensus, something that Vitalik did, and then other people copied. Some of them copied it faster. But so that's the third edge of the triangle. So you have classic consensus, the Vitalik thing, the Ethereum thing. You have the privacy, and you have classic consensus, privacy, and ease of use. And all of these three things are incredibly important, but you can only have two, I claim. So if you don't want to touch classic consensus, then you can have classic consensus and privacy, but it's terrible to use. Or you can have classic consensus and ease of use, but then you're basically back to Ethereum. You don't have privacy. So we only have 2 out of 3. And what FAIR does is we have privacy, we have ease of use. We need both, which means that we cannot have classic consensus, right? And that's why we have to, because of the trilemma, we have to come up with a new consensus, and we actually have this new thing, which is Ethereum compatible. It's kind of compatible with the old thing, but actually bakes in privacy inside of it, so we can solve the dilemma. And this kind of, and like I think yesterday I tweeted about this, and like analogy is that like on Windows, like let me give you like an antivirus trilemma, right? So on Windows, you have classic Windows, and then you have lots of viruses, and then if you install antivirus, it's terrible to use because your Windows dies, right? You can install antivirus on Windows, but then people have experience with Windows, right? You install antivirus on it, and then your system dies. It becomes unusable. On Mac, because Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple, he actually touched this core, and he baked security into the Mac OS X operating system and encryption. Because he modified, he went from the classical operating system like Windows to the new one. On Mac, you can have, you don't have viruses, you have antivirus protection, ease of use, because you baked things into the foundation. Very much like this on Fair, by baking things into the foundation, but by basically we're saying goodbye to the classic consensus. We're actually able to have privacy and ease of use.
Awesome.
So the question is the Fed going to cut or stay normal? Because that's the topic.
Well, maybe it's going to cut. Polymarket. Don't go against Polymarket.
Don't go against Polymarket. Incredible.
Only thing we know that we're going to cut in October. But
yeah, by the way, we had like 4 topics we're going to hit, but Stan and I, we get on a roll and we
I love it.
Hey, Alcor, I think one thing that's just kind of like I could give like a quick, I know a lot of people, I ask people like, hey, what do you want to hear about? And someone said, hey, I want to hear about Scale and Fair updates. I'll just give a real quick, super quick update. So, hey, testnet is rocking in Fair. There's a testnet happening. We're out actively recruiting new devs to go use it in DeFi space. But we're trying to find new use cases. Like if you just throw your typical AMM there, yeah, great. But we enable so many new things to function on Fair. Okay. So that's, we're meeting some really intelligent people. That's going well. We're also signing up validators right and left. Lots of validator interest to go run nodes in this new network. And yeah, we're rocking and rolling. So that's going really well. On the Scale side, just keep landing more and more games. I think you all see that on Twitter. I'm excited about some big ones that are coming. Really excited about like hitting this next surge of growth. I think, we're really trying to level up our quality and our brands that are building on Scale. And they're already great. There's already great quality, and we're the top, I'd say, indie developer place, but we want to start getting some more bigger businesses going, bigger games. The other piece, last thing I want to say is inflation. Like we're talking about inflation, we're talking about Scale inflation. 1, there's going to be an inflation cut, but 2, what can we do for burning? I'm going to try to write, like, here's the thing. Stan and I had talked, we're like, yeah, we should do this. And then we talked to some other people like, no, we shouldn't do this. No. And so there's a lot of different opinions, and I don't know who's right. But I think I'm just going to write my feelings and just say, hey, here's all the ways we could burn, and start just kind of like building in public, getting more people, because we need to come to a consensus to try to figure out what we're going to propose. And, Stan and I don't have all the answers, nor do we have the authority to just implement it. We need to get a lot of people on board. It's a decentralized network. But I think burning's critical. I really do. And we need to figure out how we make things, some things happen, just like the phases of Fair privacy. We need to have phases of Scale burning. We can't wait, a year to do the most complex thing. We should start doing the easy things first that are quick to implement, that are less risky, and then start adding the more risky, more elaborate things later. And let's not let perfect be enemy of the good. That's my feeling, because I think functional burning is super helpful. I think, a lot of projects that are on their way down, they're just like, we're burning the team supply, we're burning the vendor supply, we're burning the, and then they burn 10 or 20% of the supply, and then nothing happens and the project just dies. Like, we're not doing that. We're looking for functional burn. Like Ethereum has this amazing burn mechanism that is integrated to using the product. So that's what we need to do. And we need to, I think there's like 10 different ways we could introduce burns.
Yeah.
And go for it if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think what actually after this burning was announced, what actually surprised me was that people like sending me messages, people like on Scale forum. By the way, guys, please go and voice your views on Scale forum. They're really important. Also, it's important for us that people go to the forum, that AI sees lots of people, and Scale becomes more important. But everyone has a different idea. People start we had lots of discussions, very heated, and over Twitter, just people talking to each other. Everyone has a different idea. What surprised me that the ideas were so different. So maybe it makes sense for us actually to try many things, and just a little by little, and then see which of them make more sense. Maybe having more Darwinian selection. But I think with FAIR we have more. Because now we're going to have the token, Scale token, we are going to have more flexibility to experiment. And I think definitely we should experiment. But ultimately, anything that the network does the goal has to be optimize the value for the network. So whatever activity happens, it has to help the network. The problem is that sometimes you don't know which one is more effective. You need to try an experiment. Some people say maybe we should do a focus group and select people and ask them questions. I think we also going to have a focus group. But if we, I think, open up and do the discussions openly and try different, actually, then people won't say, I don't know why this thing happened this way, because in reality, no one actually knows how this thing is going to happen. We don't really have a dictator. I mean, one thing about Scale is that we're really decentralized. So there's not a single person at Scale who will decide. Usually things are decided very collectively, and which kind of slows things down a little bit. But I think in this particular case, we can unleash creativity and discuss and try different ideas.
Yep.
Yeah, and that final decision does end on me. Any issues, anything bad, you can it's my decision in the end. That's the great thing, right, about Scale is everyone can have a voice. And if you want to, Stan, I actually really like this idea of a focus group.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna actually flesh it out, but the requirements would be, you have to be active on the forum. So if you are interested in kind of being a part of a focus group type thing, go over to the forum, start showing your support
please.
Forum, and we can
maybe DM the Scale Twitter too and say, hey, I'd like to be in the group, and then if we get enough, then maybe we'll just get a type form going and you can sign up. And because we'd like to. Here's the thing, we have ideas, but an idea could actually be a phenomenal idea, but if it's perceived to be a bad idea, then it doesn't work. That's the world for crypto. It's just a reality. You can have something that's brilliant, but if everyone doesn't think it's brilliant, then it doesn't matter if it's not going to get off the ground to be able to work. It'll have an adverse effect. So we want to hear your opinions, your thoughts. This is a decentralized project, but we got to burn. I think we got to burn, baby, burn in a good way. And it's going to be nothing with the decrease in inflation. It's going to be great for Scale.
100%. Also, guys, be on the lookout for next week. Something might be happening. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm off traveling down tomorrow. Actually.
I'll be in Korea next week, so I think it'll be hard to do this next week. We're gonna have to wait an extra week for this live jam, right?
Yeah.
But we're gonna try to do these a lot. As you can see, Stan and I have a lot to talk about.
Yes. But we are, yes. But it's been fun, guys. Thank you so much for that. We got through 1 out of 3 topics. Maybe next time we can get through 2. I'm gonna have to be a little bit more forceful on keeping you guys on track. No, but that's the point of this, right? Unfiltered, unscripted, having conversations, having fun, and just hanging out with you guys in the community, and hanging out with talking about some fun stuff.
Or we just do it longer. I've noticed some people on Twitter just look some people are doing this 5-6 hour sessions. And actually,
My-
we just
my ADHD won't let me do that.
I have a mountain of work to do every day. So do you. All right. That would be fun.
It would be
I love
fun.
it. Quick Kids, an hour every week seems like, we'll test it. And hey, if no one watches, guess what? We're not going to do it. But
No.
we'll see how it goes. We'll iterate over time.
100%.
Okay.
Stan, Jack, anything further before we end things off? Or are we good?
Thanks for listening.
I think it's terrific. The show, guys. If you want us to do something fun, just tell us. What are the creative things we can do during the show? Definitely, we're gonna bring more people and have more fun. But if you have some other ideas how to make this show either more useful or more viral, because viral is also important. We want the show to be seen by many people, but also useful. Any ideas, please tweet, and we'll actually try to next time implement some of these ideas.
Guys, pleasure as always, Mr. Stan O'Halloran and Jack Kladko.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.